So, hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lynn with Nourish Your Crown. So excited to have you back with us today. So, we are super excited to invite Maggie Bell from Maggie Bell Nutrition to join us today. She's going to be sharing about her areas of expertise around mindset, around stress management, cortisol, blood sugar, all the things that we as women who are dealing with hair loss and on the hair journey, things that are really going to help us out. So everybody, welcome Maggie. Yay. Welcome to the channel. We're
Hi.
excited to have you. I met Maggie on the socials. It might have been TikTok, maybe. I think it
It
might have
was
been TikTok.
TikTok. Yeah.
And I saw your really good information. I've been looking around for information on cortisol and stress and blood sugar, and love to see women of color who are experts in this field. And I saw your information, and I just thank you so much for replying.
Yes.
Not everybody replies, so I appreciate you replying. And so we are excited to welcome you to really share your expertise with us around those topic areas. As I mentioned earlier, so many of us are dealing with hair loss or some phase of the hair journey. Some are in regrowth, some are in, scarring stages. We're all at varying levels. And the commonality, there are a couple of commonalities that we all have, and stress is one of those.
Yes.
Whether it is that stress that has caused the hair loss, or stress as a result of the hair loss, or a combination of those.
Yes.
So when I saw your information, I thought, wow, I think we could really learn a lot from you to help us around learning about stress, learning about cortisol. But now, what I'm going to do now is just turn it over to you, really, to tell us a little about your journey, your health journey, how you got involved in what you're doing, why you're so passionate about it, and the other thing that we want to hear from you is your approach to mindset and health and wellness. So we'd love to hear your thoughts about that. So we're going to have a great time.
Yes, we are.
And so let's get started. Tell us about Maggie.
Yes. And I do want to say, when I got your email reaching out to me, I was in Alaska with my family. And I was like, because, people reach out to you and sometimes it's like legit. And then sometimes it's not very legit. And so I went to your YouTube page and I was like, oh, she's legit. Like, I'm definitely going to reach out and I'm definitely going to make this happen. So I'm really excited and I'm honored to be here with you all because, like Lynn said, this is something that we need to know. We need to know this information as African Americans because we have to take control of our health, y'all. We are the highest in almost every category when it comes to type 2 diabetes, when it comes to high blood pressure, PCOS. And what I want us to understand is that those diagnoses don't have to be our identity. You can take control of your health. You do not have to live with those things. And so I'm passionate about making sure that you have the knowledge and the mindset to take control of your health. But just kind of a little bit about my background. I am a registered dietitian and I'm a registered nurse. So I became a registered dietitian in 2011. And so just a little bit about that. So initially when I went to school to be a business person. My major was going to be business. And so literally we go to my college orientation. I went to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. And they were calling for the business people to come and go get your schedule and, just get everything worked out for the semester. And so when they called for us, my mom was with me and she was like, well, I was like, they're calling for us, like, let's go. And so she grabs me and she says, I don't think you should do this. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I told you like the whole summer that this is what I wanted to do. Like, where is this coming from? And so usually at that age, at the age of 18, you're usually like really resistant to things like your parents try to tell you. And that's really who I was. I did what I wanted to do. But for some reason, I was like, okay, well, what do you suggest? And so she was like, I really think that you should go the registered dietitian route. And I was like, okay. So we like somehow slid into the group of nutrition professionals, registered dietitians. And that's how I became a registered dietitian. It was not what I wanted to do, but it was what my mom felt like was going to be a really good fit for me. And I'm so thankful that I listened. I'm so thankful that I was not resistant to it, as most teenagers are. So anyway, I graduated in 2011. And so in order to be a registered dietitian, you have to go through a dietetic internship. So I went through my dietetic internship 2011 and then graduated in 2012. And I took the test to become a dietitian, and then shortly thereafter started working in the field. And so I worked for a state agency, WIC, if anyone has heard of that. I did that for about a year and a half, and then had a desire to go somewhere else. And so I ended up working for another state agency that worked with the National School Lunch and National School Breakfast program. And so while I was in there, I just had a hunger to do more. Like, I just felt so confined, because I could only help people in one area of their life, and that was nutrition. And for me, that wasn't enough. Like, I wanted to be able to do more. And so I ended up applying to nursing school. And then let me kind of give a little background about that too. So, because nursing school is very competitive, and I don't know if it's still that way now, but when I was trying to get in, it was very competitive. And so I reached out to so many different schools. And there were a lot of people that told me, because my grades were not the best. My first 2 years of being in school, I was a party girl. So my grades suffered. But then, so I didn't have the best GPA. And so a lot of schools that I reached out to were like, this is a competitive program. Your grades really just are not that good. And, you can apply, but it's a good chance that you're not going to get in. And so, and it was not just one or two people that told me that. It was so many people that told me that. And I remember I went home to my mom, and I just was like, they're saying this, and I just maybe should. I have a great career now. Like, maybe I should just stay where I am and just be content with what I'm doing. And so basically she was like, you shouldn't let people just tell you that you can't do something. Or that you shouldn't do something. Like, you should persist through and fight for basically what you want to do. And so I'm so glad she told me that. And so with that, I applied, and I ended up getting into nursing school, and I did extremely well. I was at the top of my class. And not only did I have top honors, I was also revered around my peers. And so I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm just saying, like, when you persist through, no matter what other people are telling you, you don't know what amazing things are at the end. Nobody would have ever been I would have never imagined that would have happened for me, that I would have had top honors, and then, like I said, be revered among my peers and give a graduation speech and do all of those things. So anyway, I ended up graduating in 2016, and then became a registered dietitian in a registered nurse in 2017. And so I worked the majority of my career in the hospital, specifically the ICU. And that's really kind of what started my passion for wanting to help people in my own way, like in my own business, because the ICU is such an interesting place, because you're either going to meet your maker, or you're going to rehab, or to the upper floor to be released at some point. And so, and even just working there were so many people that just had so much regret about things. Like, they wish that they would have taken better care of their health. They wish that they would have worked relationships out with their significant other, or even with their children and grandchildren. Because if you think about it, that sometimes it's a really isolating place. You don't have any windows, don't really have a lot of visitors maybe, and you just have a lot of time to think about things. And so that just kind of made me be like, people need this information. Like, people need to know that this is not how your life has to end. It does not have to end in a hospital, because a lot of them were smokers, they were drinkers, just not taking care of their body, worked, a lot of stress. And so as a result of that, they ended up there. And so I ended up leaving the hospital that I was at for 3 years and did some travel nursing in California. And I got out. My contract ended right when the pandemic started, so March of 2020. And so I just didn't feel led to go back to the hospital, because it just was so much unknown. And I just decided that I was going to figure something else out. So while I wasn't working in between jobs, and this was May 2020, I woke up, I went to my bathroom, and I looked in the mirror and I had two cystic pimples on my forehead. And I was like, well, this is strange. Like, I've never had cystic acne. I've had acne before, but I haven't had cystic acne. And so from there, my health took a very interesting turn. And so once things opened back up, I went to so many doctors, Western doctors specifically, and dermatologists specifically, because it was really showing up on my face, because I would go from having two pimples on my forehead to having a face full of acne. And also, I lost about 20 pounds in a month. I had no energy, a completely different person. And so I went to so many different doctors, and they put me on antibiotics, they put me on creams, and I wasn't getting any better. And so I had struggled with my skin before, back in 2015, because this was 2020. And the doctor that I saw at that time, he put me on some medicine, and it literally cleared my acne up. But when I went to go reach out to him, he was on sabbatical in Europe. So a few months, well, probably several months of seeing different dermatologists, being on different medicines, I was like, well, you know what? Well, let me see if he's back from sabbatical. So I called, and he was back, and I was like, this is it. I'm about to be healed. He's going to give me the medicine that I need to be healed. Like, I have no worries. Like, it's all good. And so I go to him, and he looks at my skin, and I could just see in his face that it was really bad. And I think I had kind of convinced myself that, it's bad, but it's not terrible. Like, people still think I look okay. Like, it's not bad. But I could just tell when he looked at me that it was bad. And so he looked, and he said, we've got to put you on Accutane. And for anyone that knows anything about Accutane, it's like really one of the strongest medications that they give you to help with acne. And it's usually like a last resort. And so when he said that, I was really relieved, but then I was also a little frustrated, because I was like, why did they just put me on this before? Like, we went through all this stuff, and he walks in the room, and he looks at me, and, that's immediately what he does. And so in order to get on Accutane, you have to do a lot of stuff like blood work, and they've got to see where you are mentally and all this. So it was a while before my appointment to actually get the Accutane. And so it was time. It was like they had called me and gave me a reminder. And so I called my mom, and I was like, hey, my appointment is, this day. Can you come with me? And she was like, yeah. But it's like, while we were on the phone, I got like a really eerie feeling. And I was like, I just don't think I should do this. And she was like, I don't think you should either. So it was like a sigh of relief, but then it was like, okay, well, what do we do? Because I look a mess. I look like a stick figure. I've lost 20 pounds. I feel like crap. I have no energy. I really don't even know how I'm functioning at this point. So she was like, well, maybe you should reach out to Clara. She was our family friend, but she was really in the holistic world. And she was like, maybe you should reach out to Clara and talk to her and see who she recommends that you go see. And so I reached out to her, and she put me on to the holistic provider that she saw. And we drove about an hour and a half to go see them. It was a husband and wife duo, and they ran all these different tests on me. And so it took probably about a week for it to come back. And y'all, when they gave me my results, it was like a laundry list of things that were going on with me. And I was so relieved, because they were the first people that made me feel like I wasn't crazy. Right. Because I think some doctors, the doctors that I experienced, and nothing against them, but they were just kind of like, well, this is what happens when you get older, and, with hormones, and, we've given you everything. And so it's just like, just do the Accutane, and hopefully that will help. So, but they were the first people that made me see like something really is wrong with you. And so even though I was relieved again, I was like, it's so much. Like, where do we start? And so that would start my natural journey. And so I ended up working with them for a few months, but really felt like my needs weren't being completely met. And so I found another provider And then kind of the same thing, I felt like I just wasn't getting my needs met again. Then found another provider and worked with them for probably about 6 months and the same thing. And so that kind of got a little tricky in my mind because I'm like, okay, God, like you've told me what's going on. I'm going the holistic route, but I still feel like I'm just not quite there, that I'm not, that the issue isn't being addressed. And so I was in between my third and fourth holistic provider. And literally all of a sudden, I just had a really bad flare up. I started gaining weight this time. In the past, I had lost a ton of weight. And then all of a sudden, I started gaining weight out of nowhere. And look, I'm going to be just a little unprofessional and show you the picture. Hopefully, you will be able to see it. But literally I got this reminder a Saturday that this was me a year ago, and I just honestly could not believe it because I don't look the same. But this was me in between my third and fourth holistic provider. It's hard to see.
Wow. Yep.
As you can see, my face was very full. I probably
Mm-hmm.
picked up about 20 pounds and I wasn't doing anything different. If anything, I was better. I was eating well. I was exercising 3, 4, 5 times a week. I mean, doing nothing different, but literally just gaining weight. So I was trying not to panic, but I just was so confused because at the time I wasn't working with anybody because I was trying to find somebody that was a good fit. But I was like, you know what? Something is wrong and I've got to get down to the bottom of it. And so even when I went to my regular doctor just to get blood work and things, what is the first thing that they want to do when you go and you tell them that you've gained weight and they take blood work and everything is up? They want to put you on a bunch of meds.
Yep.
So I was like, no, like I'm not doing any of that. Like they wanted to follow up with me and do all this and put me on all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm not going. So I ended up finding my fourth holistic provider and she tested me for mold and she also did a gut test on me. And y'all, when my test for mold came back, I had high levels of mold in my body. I had high levels of heavy metals, and I would find out probably a few months later that I had an infected root canal. So once I was able to get on proper supplements and get to my root cause, the weight literally fell off of me. It was like they had given me a drug, but the drug was not giving up on myself, getting to the root cause and not letting anybody else control my destiny. Because like I said, they try to give you, and no fault of their own, because that's what you learn when you go to medical school. You learn to diagnose and prescribe medication. So that's their training. That's what they know to do. But I just did not feel good about that. I knew something deeper was going on, and I persisted until I got there. And in the process of this, y'all, I spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on these providers because they don't take insurance.
Yep.
And then the supplements that they recommend, they're not $5, $10. But I knew that I had to do whatever it took to get to the bottom of what was going on with me because I was not going to accept it. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I know the struggles that I had with my own health. And I just really don't want anyone to feel the way that I felt. And one, I never even want you to get to the point that I got to, because probably every holistic provider that I work with was just like, I don't understand how you're even functional. Like, I don't, if we don't do something immediately, like I'm really scared for your life. And so I just don't want anyone else to feel that way, to get to that point. And even mentally, I don't want anyone to really get to some of the points that I got to, because I think when because prior to me being ill, I was on a high. Like people would randomly stop me and tell me how beautiful my skin was and just how beautiful I was. And just kind of all these, I felt really good about myself prior to my health issues.
Right.
And then when I experienced all of this, I became unrecognizable. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, thank God it was during the pandemic and we were able to wear masks. So that kind of helped, because I think about that and I'm like, Lord, I might have been taken over the edge
Right,
if we didn't get to wear masks. I just
right,
don't
right,
know.
right.
But yeah, but just I just became a different person, and that did something to me. And I took on a victim mentality.
Mm,
It's like, why me? Why is this happening to me? I go to church every Sunday. I help people. I do all these things. Like, why would God allow this to happen to me? But it was really when I was able to come out of that victim mentality and realize, I don't know what you're doing, but I know you're doing something. And I know
mm-hmm.
I have to persist in this, because this has got to be bigger than me. This has got to be bigger than me, because I can't just be going through this for me.
Right.
And so when I was able to really get into that mindset, that's how I had the strength to continue to search for a holistic provider that was for me. That's how I had enough strength to continue to show up to work every day and not complain about what was going on with me, or
Mm-hmm.
even get on the phone and complain to other people about what's going on with me. Because I think a lot of times, y'all, we let our diagnosis become our identity. Somebody asks you how you're doing. Oh, my back hurts.
Mm-hmm.
My knee hurts, and people, and that repels people after a while, because nobody, and I hate to say nobody cares, but maybe that's a little true.
But I think there is something to that, right? I do. I do want
Yeah.
to go back a little bit because
Okay.
you
Yeah.
touched
Because
on a couple of things that were really important. I think regardless of what your health uh, scare is or your health issue is, there are a couple of things that you said that I think we got to make sure we listen to and pay attention to.
okay.
The one thing that the things that I told Maggie earlier, I write notes, so I'm writing my notes. I'm looking at my notes. So a couple of things that you said, especially because so many of the women on this channel that are navigating through hair issues specifically, they are trying to find the right physician. They have to go to multiple places. They're not getting the proper care. So many of us have gotten dismissed, right? In terms of like you're overreacting or it's just this, and or diminishing, right? So many women already have the challenge of just trying to get the right care.
Right.
And so the things that I think you said that resonate across with all of us, regardless of what your health matter is that being resilient,
Yes.
um, advocating for your care for yourself,
Yes.
and you are not crazy. Like you are not overreacting. You are not um, blowing things out of proportion. We're talking about your physical health and in many ways your spiritual and emotional health. So just as a reminder, I think one of the big lessons that we can learn from you, just having to navigate through your particular situation, are those things, being an advocate for ourselves. Also listening. You were, even from the beginning, from the degree you chose, right? You were listening to your mom. Like you listened, and you were resilient in those ways. And sometimes it's hard for us to gather to gather up that resilience, and that's when we pray, right? And that's when we seek others, and that's when we look at the video and get the encouragement, so because you don't have to do it alone. But I just wanted to share that because it resonates, I think, with all of us sometimes who are having to deal with systems that don't necessarily support us in the ways that we need it. And there are a lot of women from actually all over the world that watch this video, right? And so every country has its own, various types of health systems. But regardless of this, it's okay for you, and I'm talking to you as the viewer, for us to be our advocate,
Yes. Yes.
and to pursue help until we get it.
Yes. Yes. And I really want to emphasize what you said, Lynn, that you're not crazy.
Right.
You're not, your body, when something is off. So persist in that no matter what people are telling you.
Exactly. Exactly. So can we talk, and the one thing you also said something about the this kind of connected to the women on the channel about the root canal, because one of the videos, some research that I did, inflammation, right, from dental issues, there are some studies that tie it to some hair issues, but it's just causing inflammation in the body regardless. So parts of our body that are not taken care of, or in a healthy state, that's some of the things that it can cause, right?
Right. And so I actually have or had 3 root canals, and I got them earlier in life. I probably got them around the time when I was in college. So they have been in my mouth for a very long time.
Okay.
But what I learned about root canals was that 100% of them end up going bad. And that really, if you think about what a root canal is, it's a dead organ that's in your body. So it's a dead tooth. And, I'm not the expert on this. And I wish I could think of his name, who I followed on Instagram and really has a lot of really good information about it. But if you reach out to me, I'll give you his Instagram, because this is his life and what he preaches about.
Mm-hmm.
But that over time, those root canals end up attracting mold
Yep.
and bacteria and different things like that. And so he really preaches against, if the dentist tries to give you a root canal, do not do it. Do not do it,
Yep.
because it's cause you so many issues in the long run. And so, so I went to the dentist. So this was 2022 when I got with my holistic provider, and she told me I had all that mold in my body. And then I went to the dentist that November of 2022. And when they did my panoramic scans, which they only do your panoramic scans every 5 years. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long that infection had been brewing.
Uh,
But one of my 3 was already infected. And it was really bad. And so I ended up seeking out a holistic dentist, and he removed all 3 of my root canals. And so I have none of them in. And that's really when since I have gotten all of them removed, that's when I have seen just a significant improvement in my health since having them out. So yes, if you have mercury fillings,
mm-hmm.
also look into that, because it's been shown that the mercury fillings can cause some health issues as well.
Yeah. So, and I do want to share this too with the tooth issue. And then maybe we can pivot into like talking about stress and cortisol a little bit. But anyway, I had a tooth issue taken care of a couple months ago, and I had what I would call an anchor spot for hair loss. Like even if it comes back there, it actually started filling back in once that tooth was gone. I didn't like do any. I was going to talk to my dentist about it, but I'm not going to do any. I can't say 100% is because of that, but I was very mindful about paying attention to that, because it was inflamed. It was an inflamed area.
Right.
Anyway, so that just also is a reminder for us to take care of our dental health. But that's a whole nother really important topic. So let's talk a little bit about because I know you have expertise in the area of cortisol and stress. And so a lot of us who are dealing with hair loss, like I said earlier, it's usually sometimes the stress events trigger it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that triggers it, and when some of us, and I've seen tons of messages, I've gotten tons of emails, I've experienced this, where just the experience itself, when you're unsure of what's going on, you're trying to find a diagnosis, you're taking medicine, it's not working, that in and of itself is a stressor. The other piece is that life is just hard. Like life is hard, y'all. Like it's always something going on. So knowing that stress and stress events are here.
Yeah.
The question is, how do we function wholly, like in a whole way with joy? How do we navigate? How do we manage stress and the cortisol? So anything, I'm gonna stop my talking, but I want to hear from you. Like, break it down for us. What is cortisol? How do we know that we have high cortisol? How can we test it? And what are the recommendations you have for us when we're talking about stress and cortisol?
Yeah. So I think that stress is something that we just don't really talk about enough. And we feel like it's something that we just have to deal with. But the reality is, you can manage your stress, because I talk to a lot of people and they're just like, I just, I just can't manage it. I've got all of these things going on. And I'm just like, first of all, it all starts with what you tell yourself. So if you continuously tell yourself that I can't manage my stress, like I don't have time, like I can't, I can't, then your body takes on that identity. Because I think that we don't really understand that our bodies, our cells are always listening to us. And so we really have to be mindful of what it is that we're telling ourselves.
I'm saying this because I was doing some reading, and that literally that's literally what the scientific journal said. Like our cells are literally listening to our thoughts.
Yes, all the time. So it's really important what we tell ourselves. But cortisol is a natural hormone that we have in our body, and we need it in order to survive. But where it gets a little wonky, where we have trouble with our cortisol, is when it gets too high and even when it gets too low. So most people I talk to, their cortisol is high. And so some signs that your cortisol may be too high is that if you wake up in the morning and you don't have an appetite, if you are constantly exercising, you're eating healthy, but the scale isn't budging. If you have belly fat, stubborn belly fat, that no matter what you do, that belly fat is with you, it sticks with you. That's a sign that your cortisol level is high. And so usually people want something a little bit more concrete, like they want to know, like, I need to go get it tested. I need to go get my cortisol levels tested to see if it's high. But just kind of being mindful of your body is a really good place to start. So if you're having any of those symptoms, that's typically a sign that your cortisol levels are high. And so in the morning time, when we wake up, our cortisol is naturally high. That's fine. That's normal. But what causes it to go even higher is when you go long periods without eating. Because what I tell people is that your body is stuck in hunter-gatherer mode. It doesn't really know or realize that you're in the 21st century, but God made your body so adaptable that it's able to go through whatever period, you're in. But your body at its core is stuck in hunter-gatherer mode. So when you wake up and you go long periods without eating, your body says, okay, what's going on with Lynn? Is she in a situation where food isn't available? Like, what's going on? Let me increase her adrenaline levels to give her the drive to go out and find something to eat. So your adrenaline levels, your cortisol goes up to give you that drive to find food. But the longer you go without eating, it says, okay, maybe she's in a situation where food isn't available. Food is scarce because it thinks you're in hunter-gatherer mode. And there were times when, especially during the wintertime, where food was not as readily available. So it says, okay, we're going to prioritize keeping you alive. So your body goes into storage mode and it stores fat to help keep you alive, specifically in that belly area. And so your body thinks that you're in a situation that, you're just trying to stay alive. And so as a result, your cortisol levels increase. And also as a result, your health somewhat declines because all your body is worried about is keeping you alive. It's not worried about if you're digesting properly. It's not worried about if you're having proper bowel movements. That's not a priority. What it's focused on is keeping you alive. So once you're able to get those cortisol levels down, then you will really see a significant shift in your health. And so, that's just kind of a short version of my spiel on cortisol.
And so, speaking of, to that end, what are the things that we can do to positively impact the cortisol levels on a daily basis? Like, what are the things that what are things that we can do? And are there things that can help us understand or help us see that, okay, you're on the right path?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think the first thing that you can do is get out of fight or flight. So we learned about, if you remember in biology, we learned about the sympathetic nervous system and we learned about the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight response. So we learned that typically when like a tiger is chasing you or a bear is chasing you, the body goes into fight or flight to give you either that response to run or fight. And so, but what happens is the society that we're living in now, we're in a constant state of fight or flight. We're always stressed, whether it's with our kids, with our significant other, with our job, we're always in a state of stress. And so in order to heal your body, in order to get your cortisol levels down, you've got to get into the parasympathetic nervous system, or that rest and digest. So some things that you can do to get into that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest, is to meditate.
Mm.
I think that that's really underrated. And it doesn't have to be for 30 minutes or an hour. It can literally be 5 minutes where you're just alone with your thoughts, with yourself. And I like to do positive affirmations, where I just have a list of things that I just say constantly on repeat. That can help to relax you. Something else that you can do is look at your life. What are some of the things that you can release, and what are some of the things that you can manage better? So I always tell people, we're not going to get rid of our man or our woman. We're not going to get rid of our kids. But what are some things that we can kind of do to help manage that better? Maybe I need to get a babysitter so that I can go on a date night every night with my significant other. Maybe I need to hire someone to come and do the laundry, or someone to come and clean the house. Whatever it is for your specific area, because I think a lot of times we tell ourselves, well, I can't afford to do that. I can't, but yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Right.
And I think when we make ourselves a priority, God shows up for us. And money, there is a such thing as just money literally appearing. That happens all the time. And so, just really looking at your life, taking an honest look at your life, and seeing what can I do to reduce my stress on a day-to-day basis. And that may even be looking at your job. A lot of us feel very tied to our job. We feel like if we leave, then that job will not function without us. Or maybe we even feel like if we leave, we won't be able to survive. But that's truly not the case. Because if something happened to you health-wise and you weren't able to go in, I guarantee you, they will find someone else to do your job, and they may even do it better than you. And then even I find, just putting God back in this, when you look for better and you're in the mindset that I'm going to find better, better appears. Better in the form of being paid more with less stress. Like, that happens. So managing your stress is a really good way to balance your cortisol levels. Also, eating within that first hour of waking up. A lot of us we're just so busy on the go, and we don't eat, especially in the morning time. I hear so many people say, I'm not a breakfast person. I don't like breakfast. And I'm like, oh, that's a sign that your cortisol is high. So getting into that, eating within an hour.
That's me.
So that's a sign that your cortisol is high. So eating within that first hour of waking up, and then also making sure that you're eating balanced meals throughout the day. Balanced in the sense of it contains all of the macronutrients. So that protein, that fat, and that carbohydrate. Those are kind of the good ways that you can get started managing your stress, making sure that you're eating within that first hour of waking up, making sure that you're balancing, have balanced meals, and also getting enough sleep. Getting enough sleep is really key. And that's something that I just don't think that people understand. And, I was talking to somebody else about how we're just always so quick to run and want to get a supplement and want to, get a quick fix. But y'all, we have the tools within us to really take control of our health without all these additional things, like getting enough sleep, managing your stress, eating, but I think with the sleep thing, we get on the phone, we watch television, and that keeps us up at night. And so we don't really get a lot of sleep, and really that's doing more harm to us than good. So, yeah.
So, and that makes me think too, because first of all, I have like pretty much all the different things you said. So I don't, I do have some other questions about the morning thing though. But when I think about just our culture, especially the US culture, right? It's a very strive, hustle, depending upon what stage you're at in your life, you're striving to get somewhere, you're striving to stay somewhere, you're striving for retirement. Like, it's all let alone just other things that happen. So it's like this constant, I feel like sometimes there's a constant go, 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 go. But I also, for me personally, sometimes I think it's also like there's a part of me that just longs for more rest, right? I'm saying this is me right now in my life. I'm trying to balance between that. And so I know a lot of the people that are watching, or I've gotten emails, and we gone back and forth. We're all kind of dealing with, the aspect of we have these things to do, but we also want to slow down and rest. And I'm saying all that to say, I think when we are mindful about slowing down, the things will start to come into place.
Yes.
And that's, I see it when I lean into that more, when I go to sleep a little bit earlier and get off the scrolling things, when I do those simple things, more alignment starts to take place. And so I want to ask about the breakfast thing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's other people like me out there that may not be that hungry in the morning. So is it from your perspective? So say if someone eats like a scoop of walnuts or something with coffee in the morning, does that count as getting something going, or put collagen in some water when they take their supplements in the morning, or does that count? Someone as in not me, but someone asking for a friend. Does that count? Or are you saying that we need to actually have full macronutrient, protein, fiber, carb, something in the morning? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. And I think that nutrition is so individualized and we're just all different people that it's going to look different for everyone. And so I have some clients that they're able. So first of all, let me slow down. So I do recommend that you eat something that has all the macronutrients. So protein, fat, and carbohydrate. That's what I recommend that your first meal within that hour of waking up should be. But I have some people that have something smaller, and myself included. Like when I wake up really early to go to the gym, I'll just have a protein smoothie. Mm-hmm. So it'll have a scoop of protein, some frozen mango, and then coconut milk. So I've got everything in there. And then later I come back and I eat a larger breakfast. But I would recommend that you have something that has all of the macronutrients. Walnuts are good, but I would add some things to that just for that balanced approach.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And Lynn, I want to say something about what you said about you feel like your body is longing for rest. Mm-hmm. So I feel like what we've done is we're really out of touch with our bodies. And our body is always communicating to us, but we just get in such the habit of ignoring it. And after a while, y'all, your body gets enough. Like it gets fed up with what you're doing to it. And it will literally go into the state of shutting down. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I said you don't want it to get to that point. And so it really is important to just take an honest look at your life and see what you can do differently and realize, you were not made to go all the time. And like you said, when you do rest and when you do things, listen to your body, you are in more alignment. Mm-hmm. You are in all areas of your life. And so just really remember that, y'all, that the body needs rest. It craves rest. It wants rest.
And I remember watching a pastor say, this is the times where when I'm obeying and I'm listening, that like when we sleep is actually a form of worship, right? And that while we asleep, and the word says God doesn't sleep. He's at work.
Yes.
So let him do what he needs to do. And we put everything in its proper place, right? So I'm saying it out loud to y'all, but I'm also saying it to me. So, okay, so we've talked a little bit about cortisol and what we can do from that perspective. And then you talk a little bit, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I would love for us to take a few minutes to really talk about mindset, right? And so again, the women on our channel, exponentially, they are resilient, they are go-getters, they are loving and beautiful and kind, like they are amazing women.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And at the same time, when you've been faced with something like whatever the root cause is, and that's the thing that's so unique, is that everybody's root cause is different, right? Yeah. So for hair loss, so some people it's scarring alopecia, sometimes it's hormonal, sometimes it's menopause, sometimes it's traction. Like there's so many things that might be the root cause of it. But at the end of the day, most of us are dealing with a scenario that we have many times uncertainty, we have sadness, right? we have, I don't know if people would admit it, but I will admit when I was dealing with it, bouts of depression, because you're trying to figure out, and it's not just about the hair. I got a really nasty comment one time that I actually deleted from the channel, like, oh, you're always talking about hair. It's not just about hair. Hair
Right.
is the outward symptom. It is not, it's way more than hair, right?
Right.
And so for those of us who are in these spaces, in these times of dealing with really difficult uncertainties, right? And so what would your advice be? Like, when you talk about mindset a lot on your channel, and so knowing that mindset is key to all of this, what are some of the things that you could share with us about mindset being in this particular journey?
Yeah. And so I think that that's so real that when you're going through just your different struggles, it gets you down. And I don't know how deep I want to go into that, but it just, some days were very, very difficult. They were extremely difficult. So I definitely can understand that and relate to that. And I think when because you think that that's all people are looking at. Like
Right.
that's all I felt like they were looking at. It was my skin. When I gained all
Hmm.
that weight, I felt like all they could see was the weight. And even when I lost a ton of weight, I was very self-conscious because I was like, Lord, they're going to think I'm on drugs or doing
Right.
something. So I got so
Right.
caught up in what other people thought about me that I forgot that how God felt about me. And I
Mm.
forgot
That's good.
about just, and I got so far away just from loving myself. And I really just think, y'all, when you're able to, and this sounds, and I really am being sympathetic and empathetic when I say this, but I think when we're really able to get out of victim mentality, because that's where a lot of us are stuck.
Hmm.
Woe is me, this is happening to me. And I get it. I get it. But I feel like when you're able to get out of that mentality, then that's when true healing happens.
Yep.
And so that's not easy. That does not happen overnight, but it's doable. And I think that getting out of that victim mentality looks so different for everyone. And so for me, I know that I really have to be intentional about doing certain things every single day. And when I get out of doing it is when I get into trouble, is when I spiral downwards. Even today, even to this day, I'm learning that I don't care how clear my skin is. I don't care how great my body looks. Like I have to stay on these self-care things every single day. And so I just think that finding what works best for you is going to be key. But the main thing is stop feeling sorry for yourself.
Hmm.
Stop going to other people and talking about your problems. Just
Hmm.
stop.
Hmm.
Just because, and I don't think you even realize that the more you tell the story, the more your body is taking on that image. Like the more
Hmm.
and more you tell it, like, and I'm
Hmm.
so grateful to my mom because, and in the midst of this, like I was like, man, she don't give two flying flips about me. But when I would go and get on the phone and I would tell her what the holistic provider said, what I was experiencing, all these things. She really wasn't down with feeling sorry for me.
Hmm.
And it got to the point where I didn't tell her anything anymore. And while I was in it, I was like, man, like I said, this woman don't give two flips about me. Like she just, whenever I try to complain about it, like she ain't just really with it. But I found out later why she did that was because it's hard having a sick child.
Yeah.
And so she felt like the more that I would talk about it and the more that I would engage in it, that she would just see bad things happening.
Mm.
And so, like I said, when I was in that victim mentality, I was like, man, I'm just trying to tell her about it. She ain't listening. And, but really it was a blessing because it
Mhm.
forced me to be like, okay, like I got to get it. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
at the end of the day, I got me. And even with, my boyfriend, I would just, same thing, like just kind of get into a complaining thing. And I remember one day he was like, you complain a lot. And we were into it. Like we were kind of having a moment. But when I really sat and thought about that, I was like, I mean, he's really right. Like even though like this sucks, like there's a lot of still really good things going on in my life. Like I have a
Mhm.
place to live, I have running water, like I'm functional, I'm able to go to work. Like, but what do? We hyper focus on what's wrong. We
Yep.
hyper focus on the bad and what's wrong, y'all. And I'm saying when you're able to get out of that and when you're able to enter into a state of gratitude, and just really love yourself, no matter what you look like, no matter what is happening, when you truly love yourself, no matter what, I just feel like that's when the floodgates open. That's when healing happens. And that's just when you see a transformation in all areas of your life,
Hmm.
all areas of your life.
There was a this week I posted on our community post. I saw it on another, I think it was in no, I was in the Bible study app, and it was one of the devotionals, and it said, "Battle hard things with true thoughts."
Yes.
And our natural physical sort of bent sometimes is to do the complaining and to do the things there. But then, regardless of that, I think that's the thing is, regardless of that, and I'm dealing with this in a couple of areas in my life. It's like, okay, so I can keep rehearsing these things, or I could just say whatever the truth is. And maybe the truth for that day, all I can sit in is that I'm loved by God. Just
Yeah.
sit there. Just start there, right? You are loved. You are not alone. He is with you, and he cares. Just sit there, like wherever. Just rehearse the truth, right?
Yes.
Just rehearse the truth, to help us get to the next step. And the other thing I think is important for us to think about is 24 hours. Just we got today. That's it. But we have 24 hours. We have today. And sometimes it's hard when you're in the situation, whatever the health situation is, because you think and feel sometimes it's always going to be like this.
Yes.
Or like you're in a despairing situation, like it's never going to change. And quite frankly, we don't even know what's going to happen really in the next 10 minutes, let alone in the next 10 years.
Yes.
So let's follow the instructions we've been given, as in focus on today. And as I'm saying this literally to me
Yes.
and y'all.
Yes.
Focus on what we have today and the goodness that's in today, and even in the hard things that's in today.
Yeah.
And then worry about tomorrow when you get there. Not worry about it.
Right.
Don't even worry about it, because he actually said, don't focus on tomorrow. Just know that I'll show up tomorrow there as well, essentially, right?
Right. Right. And I think just staying in the knowing that better is coming.
Yeah.
And no matter what it looks like
Yeah.
I would be getting better and then I would have like a breakout again, or just like things would happen. And so what do you tend to do? You tend to hyper focus on the bad. It's like, okay, I prayed for good and I was hopeful, I was prayerful, and now this has happened. But I really don't want us to get caught up in that. Like, don't get caught up about what's in front of you. Like, just stay on the course and know that you're going to get everything that you want, but you've got to stay the course. And I just even think about people in the Bible, like Joseph. That man was in prison for 11 years. And I know that he had times where it was up and down and where he was like, Lord, I don't know. But he stayed the course, he stayed persistent, and in the knowing that God is with me, that I've got this. And then what ended up happening to his life?
I don't know, but that was my devotional this morning.
See, man, we're aligned.
That was my devotional this morning.
But seriously, we want to pray for things. We want them to happen instantly with no trouble, no nothing. But y'all, that's just not life.
It's
It's just
not
not
on this planet,
life.
not on
Yeah,
this planet. But I will say too, to your, when you were talking about your going back up and down with it, that is literally my story. When I
yeah,
started this channel, I was like, okay, I'm going to start this channel. I'm going to share this information, because I'm learning. I told God I would do it. He didn't, it wasn't like I can't even say he told me to do it. I said to him, if you do this, I will share it, whatever it is that I learned.
right.
And then when it started coming back, I was like, okay, I guess I better follow, I better keep my commitments. Um, but then about 6 months in, I had another episode. And I went into major doubt. I think I might have had a couple hundred people, a couple hundred followers. And then I went into the same thing, hyper focus. Oh God, why did I do this? Now, they're gonna think I was lying, and all these different things. Like, no, literally, I had to I had to put off the victim mode. And it was almost like those wash your face,
Yeah.
get up, and do what you know to do, which is the self-care, the sleep, the anti-inflammatory foods, all the things that you
Right.
told me initially or showed me initially. And it came back, it started to grow back again.
Right.
Got COVID. And then it didn't go back to the original. It didn't go as bad, but it was the same thing. And so I said in one of the other videos, for some of us, it's an up and down journey. Some people, it might be one and done. And
Yeah.
some people, it might not be. So just embrace whatever part of the journey that we've been given.
I agree. Yeah. And even when I was with my holistic providers, it was one of the three, it was like a group component. It was a lot of us that were struggling with the same thing in the group. And a lot of people were getting healed, y'all, and they were doing minimal things, but they were like just receiving healing so quickly. And I'm like, man, what's going on? Like I'm the same, but all these other people are getting healed. And I think that could be a little bit discouraging, but again, stay in the knowing that your healing is coming, and that we all have to take different journeys to get us to different places in life. And I see now that I went through all of those things so I could help other people. And now in my practice, like I see people tell me things and I'm like, oh, I went through that. I know exactly what that is. Or, I took so many different supplements and now I'm like, this is what you need to take. This is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of money. And so if I would have just been healed instantly, I wouldn't have been able to go through those things. But because my healing took a little bit longer, I was able to experience more things. So that's what I'm saying, y'all. Just stay in the knowing and know that whatever you want, whatever you desire, you're going to get it, but you have to persist and not give up and not get distracted.
Right. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about, we have a couple more minutes. So I want to hear about your practice right now. So we'll talk about that. And then of course, it looks like we're gonna have to do a part two because we didn't even do the blood sugar. And so we'll need to do it. We'll
Right.
need to do a part
We need to talk
two
about that.
with that. But obviously, like I said before, you have an open door, open welcome to the channel at any point. But would love to hear, because I think there are probably some people on this channel who could really benefit from working with you. So can you tell us a little bit about your practice, what it looks like, and then how they can find you and follow you? And I will also link to everything in the description box, but tell us about your practice and how you work with people.
Yeah. So again, I'm a registered dietitian and a registered nurse. And so I've been a dietitian for 12 years. So I have a decade plus of experience, and I have experience not just with my education, but also with my own life. And so typically what I'd start with is by hopping on a phone call with you and just seeing what your health goals are and just making sure that we're going to be a good fit to work together. And then I get on a longer call with you that lasts about an hour where I dive deeper into your sleep, your stress, what you're eating, and just basically like your overall lifestyle. So those things are complementary. And then I have different program options. So I explain those to you, what I think will work best for you. And I feel like nutrition is so individualized. So I really specialize in finding something that is going to work for you and that you're going to actually stick with, and that it's going to become who you are. Because I think a lot of times we get caught up in fad diets, keto diet, paleo diet, Atkins, and we're looking at other people and what they're doing and the results that they're having. But we have to find something that works for us and something that we're actually going to stick with. And that's just going to become second nature to who we are. And so my practice really focuses on teaching you the basics of nutrition, because I think that that's where a lot of us fall short, is that we just don't really understand food and how it affects our body. So major practice on teaching you about food so that you'll feel empowered to make your own decisions, because I can't be with you all the time and you shouldn't want me to be with you all the time.
Right.
You should want to feel empowered to make your own decisions. So we really dive deep into that. And then we also get into a lot of wellness things, because there's more to health than just what you eat. There's also exercise, there's also stress management, there's also sleep, there's also your bowels. And then for some people, there is getting to that root cause. So I do some testing. I do really like to make testing, I'm just being honest. My business coach would say this is bad practice, but I really like to make testing a last resort, because I think that a lot of things can be cleaned up with just improving your lifestyle. And so, but I know that there are some people that are very insistent about getting tested. So I do offer that. And then also, y'all, a big part of my practice is mindset, because I feel like that's what holds a lot of people back from reaching their goals, is that you just don't think it's possible for you. You think it's possible for everybody else, but for some reason you don't think it's possible for you. So we do a lot of mindset work and helping you to realize that you can literally have anything that you want in your life, and not just the health of your dreams. You can have the finances of your dreams. I think when we had our first talk, we talked about we should all be millionaires. And when I was in the shower this morning, I was thinking, I always say we should all be millionaires, but I was like, we should all be billionaires. Like, there's enough money to go around. Like, there's not a shortage of money. We should all be billionaires, because we're all unique. We're all so creative. We have so many different ideas. And that's another thing, you all. I feel like when you rest and when you get your body into alignment, that's when ideas come. That's when your desires come. And God puts those specific desires in you for a reason. Like, those just are not willy-nilly thoughts. And I was telling you, like, there's this one in particular car that I want. There's this one in particular car that I want. I don't want none of these other ones, but it's just that one. And I feel like it's because it's mine. Like, it's mine. It's a desire that I have in my heart. And so, so just helping you to see that you're limitless in your life. You can have the health of your dreams. You can have the finances of your dreams. You can have the man or the woman of your dreams. But, you've got to believe that. So that's just short story. But I have a website. It's www.maggiebellnutrition.com. And so you can get set up with your first call to connect with me there.
Awesome. And we'll put the link to her website down below. She's on YouTube and the TikTok. So follow. You want to give your socials for TikTok?
Yes, it's Maggie Bell Nutrition on TikTok. On Instagram, it's the same thing, Maggie Bell Nutrition. Then YouTube is the same thing, Maggie Bell Nutrition. And then Facebook, I think I'm just Maggie Bell.
Okay. So follow her, follow Maggie, because you are the truth. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Of course, we're going to have to probably talk again. So maybe in the fall, we can do the blood sugar, because that's a really interesting one to me. Especially since we have so many people near us and dear to us who are struggling in that space. So I would love for us to talk about what we can do for people who might be dealing with it, but then also what can we do to avoid it, right?
Yes.
What are preventative measures? So when you come back, we can talk about that.
Yes, I'm excited.
But, so let me, what was I going to say? So, okay, so let's do the top 3 things. If someone's watching this, right? They've watched the video, they've heard us talk about stress and cortisol and self-care and all the things. What are the maybe 2 to 3 things that you think, regardless of wherever anyone is on their medical journey, what should they be doing next? What's the next best thing that they should do?
Oh, that's a good one. Get out of victim mentality, get your mind right. Like I said, know that you're limitless and you can achieve anything. Identify the stress in your life. Really get a hold of your stress. Get enough sleep. And I know you said 3, but
you can go more.
Really be mindful of the foods that you're putting into your body.
Okay.
If it was made in a factory, you don't need it.
And I don't know if you've watched any of these videos that I've done before, every single intervention has all those it includes all those things. It's all like the same thing. It's regards to do those same things. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. And for those of us who need the reminder, the gentle reminders, sleep. So I feel like this is why it's a good thing doing this, because I'm always, it helps me, like it helps me to get on track or stay on track. Like, I do not have it together. I'm figuring this out. So I appreciate people like you sharing us the truth. about our possibilities too. So
Yes.
thank you, Maggie.
You're welcome.
And thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.